Hawk Talk with President VanWagoner.
So here with Willjavian Dawson.
Yes, sir.
Willjavian, there are sometimes when I think about students who came to MVCC and transferred, I sometimes have to double check, did they graduate before they transferred or not? But with you, I remember your smile popping up on stage to accept your degree at MVCC. So I know you graduated from MVCC, but I still remember that all those years ago. But thank you for being here on our Hawk Talk podcast. And if you don't mind, just share a little bit about born and raised and what it was like growing up.
Yeah, for sure. So I was actually born in St. Luke's Hospital, so New Hartford, New York, technically, but I still say I was born and raised in Utica because I lived here a great portion of my life. But I also lived in like the Helen Patton area. I would say for like maybe the first decade of my life, kind of lived in Rome, Marcy within that first decade. But Helen Patton, Steuben areas where I like really grew up. And, you know, basically I went to like the local elementary school out there. And then after third grade, I was actually homeschooled. So, you know, I came to Utica more so as like a young adult or preteen, I guess you could say, like the age of 12. And that's where I came back to Utica officially.
And then did you stay homeschooled after that move? So from 12 on as well?
Yeah, so from fourth grade all the way up until, you know, getting my GED and all of that, like I actually was homeschooled.
Yeah.
You know, so I stayed homeschooled pretty much. I have no experience in middle school or high school or any of that, like, you know.
And then how did you get your GED? Tell me that.
Yeah, sure. So I actually, it's interesting because you know, it was something my sister used to always push me, and my mother and my family, like they would always push me like, okay, your next step is to get your GED, because without that, you won't be able to like, you know, go back to school if you wanted to, or even, you know, most jobs require some type of credential. So I remember they was telling me about, you know, BOCES had a program. So I started with them. And while I was there, it's an interesting story because I started at like, you do like the pre-testing or the pre-screening before you take the GED, and they try to see where your levels are at. And I remember like I scored pretty low on everything except for my reading comprehension. So I remember I had to stay there for a few months, and it was more like self-paced. I was expecting more like a teacher to actually have a chalkboard and whiteboard or something and just give me lessons. But it was more like they'll just hand me pamphlets and stuff and like, here you go.
It was just like homeschool.
Yeah, just like homeschool. And I was like, I mean, this is something I'm used to. I could do this, but I would prefer that, you know, that one-on-one touch type of thing, or more of like a classroom type setting. So I remember after a few months of that, I heard about MVCC. Like, you all had a program for the GED at the time where you get X amount of credits and then you automatically transition into getting your GED. And then from there, like, those same credits could be applied towards a degree. So I enrolled into that. I remember I spoke to admissions and I got into the program. And then I was here for the first semester. This was back in 2007. And halfway through the semester, I just went ahead and I'm like, well, these credits, why don't I just go and get my GED? That way the classes I take could actually apply towards an actual degree. So that's what I ended up doing halfway through. I went back to BOCES, took the test, passed, got my certificate, my GED, and then came back and we switched it to an actual major.
Great. And what was your major when you were at MV?
So for me, like, I just had this fascination of learning. Like, I just felt like being homeschooled, you know, I personally felt like I didn't know enough, like all the liberal arts and stuff like that. So I went into general studies. And I remember I did change my major probably like two or three times. I went from general studies to like public policy or political science type major. Then I also went to like international affairs. And then I ended up going back to just liberal arts. I'm like, you know, I got all these credits. Let me just graduate with some official degree.
Because you knew you were going to be transferring. So.
Right, exactly.
And did you go full time?
So I did. I went full time.
And did you work? What was that like? Did you join clubs or?
Yeah, so I did participate in some of the clubs like BSU. there was a couple of clubs that I just kind of like showed my face in. And I remember like I was super busy because I was working full time. Like I had a full-time job. I remember I was working at like McDonald's. That was my first job.
Full-time job,
Yes,
full-time
yeah.
college.
And I was doing like the
Not
overnight shift. So I remember like I tried to like coordinate my routine and my class schedules to fit my work schedule and stuff, but I needed the money. So it was a little difficult for me to like really participate in a lot of organizations and clubs.
Yeah.
But the ones that I did was like, I think it was BLASU or BSU. Remember I participated in that. I was also part of C-STEP. That was a great program. We did like a lot of field trips and a lot of workshops that really helped me. And basically, I tried to play sports. I wanted to play sports, but I remember I went and got my physical, and that's pretty much as far as it got because I seen the schedule, and I was like, I don't know.
Working full time.
Yeah, so
student athlete. Yeah, no.
exactly.
That's a
So
lot.
I kind of like sacrificed that just so that I could graduate and get the degree and work full time.
And then when you graduated MVCC, you transferred to a 4-year school?
Yes. So I wanted to stay within the SUNY system for, obvious reasons in terms of affordability. They offer great programs, and there was a lot of incentives being that MVCC is part of the SUNY conglomerate. So I remember I was going to go to Syracuse, but, I seen the bill, and I was like, yeah. I was going to go out of state, but then I wanted to stay close to the family. So I ended up going to SUNY Poly. I went to SUNY Poly at the time of SUNY IT, Institute of Technology. I transferred there. And even when I got there, because they said you're coming with a liberal arts degree, so you have to declare a major. So for me, it was just like, well, I don't really fully know what I wanted to do. So I remember I just kind of like closed my eyes, went through the catalog, and just wherever my finger landed, like that's what I decided to go for at that time. And I started out as computer information systems, and I was in that for maybe about half a semester. And I realized, like, okay, I'm doing a lot of coding, programming, and I realized going forward, career-wise, like, it's going to be a lot of behind the scenes. And I felt like I was more of a people's person and try to be in the mix and up front with people and be out there communicating a lot. So I changed my degree to communication information design.
As a communications major, I would say myself, I'd say that was a great decision. And it's probably good for you.
Yeah, for sure.
So as communications majors, sometimes though it does take us a minute to find the exact path within the career to apply that. So after SUNY Poly, you held a couple of different jobs, but then you kind of clarified your path a little bit more. And and how'd the career path work out?
So I always knew, like when I came here to MVCC, like, there was some prominent figures. You were definitely one of them. Morris Pearson, just to name a couple of the people that really stood out to me while I was here, like really helped me along the way. Also Phil Benson, and I remember like I was going through a lot of indecisive, trying to find myself and trying to figure out what I wanted. So when I was here, like you all were like pillars in my life that kind of helped me like stay the course. Because there were times where I wanted to like, give up and just, I can't do this. I'm gonna drop out. I have no sense of direction. But it was the pivotal moments of having those interactions with you all that made me realize when I complete this education route, like I want to give back the same way. Like I want to be one of those pillars within higher education, sitting at a desk so that people could come to my office. Like I used to go to y'all office and speak to y'all and like motivate y'all to succeed and stuff like that. So that's when I knew I wanted to work higher education.
Yeah.
But then even within that, I was just like, okay, so what in higher education? Because there's so many different departments and stuff like that. So, long story short, I ended up, landing a job. I work in admissions at SUNY Poly now. So I'm like the front line where, I speak to students and I recruit in New York City area. And I also am an EOP liaison. So I work a lot with the EOP students and I bring them to school and I give them an opportunity where, a regular admissions wouldn't meet their criteria, so they wouldn't be able to get in regularly. So I give them that opportunity to come in as an EOP student and still give them that golden ticket to college and the foot in the door.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Great. And then another piece of your MVCC story is Neighborhoods Rising.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I always stayed attached to MVCC one way or another. Like Neighborhoods Rising was a great program where, it's like a kind of like a leadership type of academy where it just teaches you prominent skills and transferable skills and you get to network. And overall, like it did numbers for me because it helped like boost confidence. It helped social capital. That's very important. Met a lot of great people, resources, and was exposed to different paths and avenues. So I'm just like, wow, being a community leader is just very important.
Yeah. Looking back on your time at MVCC as a student, what is your favorite memory? Is there a particular moment that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, like even coming back here now, just like it's like that nostalgic feeling. Like it just like tears almost came to my eyes because it just felt like wow, this is where it all began. Like, you know what I mean? Like I had no idea where I was going. So I think just being on campus, I had a lot of great moments with C-Step. Like I can't pinpoint like one specific moment because a lot of the experience was great. Like even coming to the offices, speaking to you all and the cafeteria at the time, going to some of the basketball games, just little things like that, meeting great people on this campus, like all of it was great, so definitely the C-Step, C-Step where we had to go to like different retreats or go explore different college campuses. Like we went to like Buffalo, we went to Albany, we went all over to like the SUNY schools and stuff. Like those were great moments.
Yeah, the C-Step program being that college science technology entry program that it doesn't have to just be science and technology completely. Right. It really helps students clarify their path.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think you have to have like going towards some type of license or certificate type of degree. Yeah. So yeah, that was great. Like I remember we went to some retreat. It was at like Lake George, and that was the C-Step conference. And,
there you go.
And that was really, really fun. Yeah. That was the first time I've ever done something like that. So that was a great experience.
Great. So thinking back to 2007, all these years later, when you look back on your experience, what does MVCC mean to you?
Man, this is like the alpha, the beginning. Like, you know what I mean? To me, like if it wasn't for MVCC, like I don't think I would be where I'm at today because, just coming from my background, like I needed that. It gave me like a high school experience too. Like I feel like I didn't originally have, but this was like the 13th grade, and there was a lot of high school students that came here that I knew were in Proctor that were actually bridging. So it kind of gave me that experience, and this is like the foundational piece right here. Like it really helped me just build on and expand, and I was able to explore many different things, and that's why, being liberal arts, I had so many different courses that just helped me like just create that foundational piece and stuff like that.
Great.
Yeah.
Willjavian Dawson, thank you so much for being on the Hawk Talk podcast.
I appreciate it.
Very good.
Hawk Talk with President VanWagoner.